I offer my most loving and humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan. At the outset, I invite all the participants of today's evening satsang. The speaker for today's satsang is none other than Sri Kota Siva Kumar. He is an alumnus of Swami's University, where he completed his MBA following his engineering degree, all by Swami's immense grace. With over 35 years of diverse experience across engineering, human resource, and training, Kota Shiv Kumar has blended professional expertise with deep spiritual service. In his journey with Sri Sathya Seva organizations, he has served as a study circle speaker in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana and as a spiritual coordinator for the Hyderabad district. He had the unique opportunity to lead the Navasutra Jnana Yajnam, promoting Swami's 9-point code of conduct, extending it to Pune and Bangalore. He has delivered many impactful programs, including over 60 episodes of Tyaga Upanishad through the Sri Sathya Sai Media Center and has been a key faculty member for the Sri Sathya Sai National Leadership Program for Self-Transformation. Currently, by Swami's grace, he serves as an HR consultant at Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. As a founder director of InSai Consultants, he has trained over 10,000 professionals across 50 organizations, reflecting his mission to integrate spiritual and professional excellence. His weekly Sai Vak Sudha study circles and participation in the Samarpan program continue to inspire many on the path of self-transformation. Over to Sri Kota Siva Kumar.
अखंड मंडलाकार व्याप्तं सचराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे तिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं तस्मै श्री गुरवे offering my humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our dear Lord, and going down to the Lord, the resident of the hearts of all the gurus here who have come onto this call. I thank the Tamil Nadu State President and the Zonal President for giving me this opportunity to be in front of wonderful teachers who are actually the chosen lot of Swami. They are making a difference to the world. So today we have this 1 hour or more of this talk, and the transformative power of teaching is what we said. So I thought to make it a little more interactive, we'll try to make use of a common medium, a presentation, which will make it easy for both of us to get on to the point quickly. And it looks like I'm jumping into the topic straight away for the simple reason that we have very little time to discuss about a very deep topic, right? So I'm sharing my screen and would request one of you or the organizers to confirm if you are able to see the screen.
Yes, Brother Shiv Kumar, yes.
Thank you. Thanks so much, sir. Right. So whenever we talk about teaching, we talk about guru in general. The number of examples that we find in this wonderful land Bharata Bhumi, are so many that it becomes difficult to pinpoint or pick up any one guru to talk about as such. But most of us have seen actually the living avatar, the Jagat Guru also, and then we have learned so much from him, and we are continuing to learn. One short story, one small story called Chinna Katha, that's we used to often tell us, narrate, and I'll talk a little more about Chinna Kathas a little later as we go by in the session. It is a very short story, but that is so impacting, and I wanted to start with that, our conversation. Swami talks about a child, someone, a man, who had a weakness of anger. And the person goes to a sannyasi, a teacher, and says, can you give me a very powerful mantra by which I can come out of this addiction? Because every time I get angry, I regret immediately later because I end up saying something or doing something. And the sannyasi smiles and he says, very simple, I'll give you a chalk. And then as I'm giving you a chalk, you'll have to, all that you have to do is every day you have to write a namam, any favorite namam of yours, let us say Sai Ram. You write Sai Ram and continue to write, and just be aware of something. As the size of the chalk is coming down, just try to cut down your talk or the like kind of speech you have immediately when you get angry. Cut it down proportionately. Now, initially, that the person felt that it was such a easily doable practical technique, because there was a chalk and then it was a full thing, and then it gave him the permission to take off his anger on someone. But as the time went by, the chalk started getting lesser and lesser, shorter and shorter. And therefore, being mindful of whatever word he has given to his guru, the person started stopping himself to the proportion of the chalk and size of the chalk. And gradually, when the chalk became so small, he found that in spite of anger welling up in him, he could control himself in not coming out with the angry words or angry actions. And very soon he found that he could come over the habit. Now, I gave the example of anger. Now you replace it with any addiction that we have. It doesn't matter, smoking, drinking caffeine, or whatever is the addiction that you and I have. We could always replace it with this chalk story. Now, what does this tell us essentially? One is that whatever the story tells is fine. But what it tells me is that there is a power in Guru's teaching that does its work in a beautiful way with us. Okay, and this is what is called transformation in my mind. The best example I could think of immediately was this story, where you say that transformation actually is not wrought by someone who blesses, and then therefore sudden transformation happens. Transformation is a process that happened with this person as the time went by. Now let us see what it means in the context of students and teachers. For the sake of convenience, I have not made it a one-way affair, this particular session. I'll be stopping in between and then we'll have a little interaction. There will be some quizzing, there will be some case studies. So I'll try to make it as interactive as possible. But in case at some point somebody has a big need to say out something, you could always probably raise your hand, and I'll request the program coordinators to please be on the watch, because I can't see it. I'm actually glued to the PPT, and I'll request the program coordinators to see that, and then you can halt me in case you feel that I'm going too slow or too fast or whatever. So first, let's talk about actually the transformation, need for transformation. Is there a need for transformation in teaching that we need to do? And let's talk about these 3 points, and then you can check out whether you are able to also vibrate with these points. 1, we see that the character building in students, which seems to be the basis of the entire education, is taking a beating because of the pressure of academic results. Now, nobody would say no to this, I'm sure. Second, there are behavioral issues, particularly when we look at the Gen Z. And then, of course, this is true for every generation. And when we look from the previous generation point of view, and then, but the rate of change that we see in a globalized world is so tremendous that the behavioral issues that we see because of various influences that we can talk about as we go by are so acting that the values seem to be eroding, right? lack of values seem to be a strong word, but it's not that strong, because when I say lack of values, I say with respect to a standard definition of what Swami gives us as values. In fact, just to share something, very recently, I was in a very unpleasant situation. I had to help out someone where I was speaking to somebody. It was a clear trespassing values, and the person who was actually the culprit, he was looking at me. He respected me for whatever, and then he said that I know, Anna, that you follow certain values, but what I did is also value. That is a value for me. You could have your own value. Now, this was a shock to me. I never heard a conversation like this till then. And therefore, I understood that as the generations go by, people who are very intelligent, very smart, can also have their own logic of what is a value and how they justify anything they do to be a value. In fact, today we see some movies also, because movies are a big influence in this country of children and then adults alike. And we see in some movies, the hero or anti-hero, if I should say, being shown as smugglers or money launderers, etc., and then they're being acclaimed. Now, this is the strangest thing that we see happening in the social fabric. How do we take it in the right spirit is the whole point. How do we understand it from whatever context we come from? Disconnects between teachers and students due to generation and societal shifts. Part of it I covered, and therefore this is one strong need is what I felt. These are the reasons why a need is felt, if I can say that. But the thing to know is that, okay, these things are happening. Their changes are always happening from generation to generation. But why do you feel the need so much? If someone asks this question, it becomes clear when we look at the impact of these challenges, right? This is seen. Somebody told me, a medical doctor told me recently that very shortly by 2025 or maybe 2026, 2 out of every 5 people in the world are going to be cases of depression, it seems. This is some study. Now, I do not know the authenticity of this study, but hearing that out, we get depressed. Hearing out news like that, we get depressed. Rise in stress. What can cause stress to children? What can cause stress to youngsters? When you look at it, some of us probably are coming from that generation where the word stress was not even known in schools and colleges. People never knew what was stress at some point. Well, they must have experienced some stress, but stress was never talked about in such big ways. Today, there are counselors in schools, some of those big schools. There are counselors to de-stress children. There are counselors to counsel children about the failures that they have. And there are counselors actually to control and then guide students when they're anxious, and anxiety syndrome is there. Now, peer pressure, it has always been an issue, but all the more with the growing population, growing demand, and need to perform well in a competitive society causes peer pressure. Now, we know the way it works even with siblings in a house. This is nothing new. It has always been there. But in days where the demands were not so much from outside in terms of individuals always working and differentiating themselves in order to excel. Okay. When such a thing was not there, it was a lot more easier, and then you could find those affection, love, even amongst the siblings in a family. But today, what do you see? You find siblings fighting, right? And then siblings competing. You find spouses competing. And so sometimes you wonder what has happened to all the emotional stability in relationships. Okay. Now, within such a rising situation, rising situation in the society, what should we expect in students particularly, and therefore the need for teachers to adopt a transformative way of doing things? Diminished respect for teachers and moral guidance. Now, as I told you, the example where I spoke about somebody teaching me, somebody telling me that your value system framework is different, mine is different. Now, I'm very sure that's what a Ravana would have told everybody else, or but ordinary people are talking about these things. That everybody is feeling that well, I can have my own value system, my own framework. Now, Swami says that your freedom ends where the other's freedom starts. He gives a beautiful example of someone who has a stick in his hand, and of course, it is his stick. And since you have your stick and then it is your will and your freedom, if you go on doing this and rotating the stick around you, people will keep quiet only to the extent that it doesn't hit somebody else, right? So you have your circle of freedom wherein you can, of course, do a few things that you want, provided it is not hurting. But even that circle, sometimes very close people like your parents would enter, because they are the ones who are most concerned about your glory and then your growth and development. Therefore, what happens is that when people forget this line of freedom, the border, and they keep wielding their stick of indiscipline, the stick of whatever ego that drives each one of us, we tend to hurt the other people. Right, and therefore Swami says your freedom ends where the other's freedom starts. Can we, if we are mindful of this, automatically we are a little moral. Who has to give us moral guidance? Our conscience that has been kept inside is always telling us that do unto others as you would want others to do unto you. Isse badke there is no dharma in this world. But why do we trespass? Because of our selfishness and then because of our inability to look at this as a equal game. We are feeling superior in most situations, we are feeling inferior in some situations. So this imbalance, societal imbalance due to the lack of value-driven individuals, lack of role models in the society. We still talk about very old examples when we have to talk about the greatness of Bharat. Why? Of course, today there are so many successful people, but you have more billionaires in this country. You have more successful people who have achieved things. You have more entrepreneurs. It's not that they don't have any greatness in them. There's a lot of greatness in them. But when you look at the generic social fabric of values, it gets diluted. It gets diluted because the thought process is that how can you follow values and also create a value in this business space? If you want to create a value in the business space, you better have dilute your values of which you were started in the childhood. Okay, so this is totally a wrong step that we are taken, and therefore there's a need for transformation, and these are the impacts that are happening. So having said that, having come thus far, where Swami says that teachers have been given this unique responsibility as the architects of the nation building, because one teacher with about 40-50 students in their hands year after year can be the architect in order to very subtly sculpt the character of the student. Swami says if a student is spoiled, the result, the impact goes up to themselves or maybe the family. But if a teacher is spoiled, 50 students and their families get spoiled. So the impact, it's a group level contribution. It's a high level contribution that a teacher does. And therefore, the destiny of the nation itself is in their hands, is what Swami says. So such a beautiful statement. Okay, let's have a quiz. It's a quiz time right now. And what I would do is that I would be asking a few questions. People can type in, maybe I will just go this mode because I have to also see, or maybe I will, a second thought, I will not go in this mode, I'll go the full mode, but I need the help of somebody to tell me, read out from the chat, because I'll not be able to see the chat. I'll request one of the moderators to read out the chat if somebody is answering, but people can type in your chat box about your answers, okay? Because it's a single word, single letter answer, right? So the first situation is this. What percentage of, not situation, but it's about a fact, it's even knowledge. What percentage of students report high levels of stress in schools today? To the extent, A 30%, B 50%, C 70%, D 90%. Okay. I'll just wait for a few seconds and I'll request the moderator to tell me what have been the kind of answers in the chat box. Okay, can we go on?
90%.
90%, okay.
Yes. C 70%.
C 70%. Okay, so these are the two answers that have come up.
Yes, 50%. One more.
50%. Okay. So I don't know why people have left out 30%, but yeah, I think fair enough. So yeah.
So again, 70.
70. So I think 70 is what actually is the answer. And this is based on a 2023 UNESCO report. Highlighted that around 70% of. Now, I don't think that there was any separate study done in India, if we have to go geographically, but the UNESCO report did say that this was representative worldwide, and therefore the academic stress, in fact, I would say that if at all in India and then Southeast Asian countries, you find more stress as on the academic side as compared to any other place in the world. Therefore, this should be a representative thing, 70% now. That's a lot of stress, I can tell you, because 70% of the students experiencing stress is, I don't know how many of you would agree with me, but I think that's not good for the country, because these are the students, these are the children who are going to be the citizens of tomorrow's Bharat. And think of people who grew up with stress and then the anxiety syndrome. What kind of Bharat are you building? Right? So this is something that we need to discuss about really. This points out to one need to transform. Okay, the next thing is this question. What is the most common reason for teacher-student disconnect? Generational gap, lack of empathy, academic pressure, technology. You can take 15 seconds to type in your answer in the chat box. I'm sure each of you is very experienced in this, and then you know exactly the reason. But let us see what has come up. May I request the moderator to please tell that?
Yes, sir. B, A, C, C, D, D, and A.
C, D, and A. Okay.
Yes.
Right. Yes, you're all right. But generational gap comes up with a little ahead of other things because it includes. Now, the reason is generational differences often result in misalignment of values, communication styles, and technological adaptation. Everything else comes in this one thing. It takes an adaptability in our personalities to actually adjust a generation gap. There's no surprise about it because we can see all these things even in our own homes, back homes, in our families. We can see how people adapt the generation gap. What are the chances of the previous generation to understand the next generation and then be able to be accepted by them? That's the key thing. To be able to accept, you should be able to talk their language. You should be able to understand their values and then correct them to align with the right values in a way that is appreciated. And you should be able to at least talk the technological language that they use. For example, today's social media and then AI language that people talk about, if for the previous generation are not really up to the mark in terms of at least knowing what it is and then be able to speak that language, there is a possibility that the students group would think that you don't belong to their. So the generation gap is what actually in a big way creates the common connect, erodes the common connect. It creates a common connect if when it is there. So that is one of the things. And which is the most effective teaching method for fostering values, right? Lectures, storytelling, experiential activities, and assignments. Please take 10 minutes to give your answers. Type your answers in the chat box.
C, C, C.
So everybody says experiential activities. Very, very good. Most effective teaching method for fostering values. What has been found out is that it is storytelling. Now, some of us might be surprised why such an old technique is being referred to as the most effective teaching. Here we should understand that we are talking about values. While experiential activities are very good, and mostly they give a lot of insight straight away into very tangible physical things, and which are very easily seen, things that are easily seen, but subjective things like values require a little bit of inspiration that has to come in. The reason why storytelling gets the higher marks is that research supports that stories engage emotions, making the lessons memorable and impactful. We all know that there are various seeds of learning in human system. And for the child, there is a seat of learning, which is the intellect. There is a seat of learning, which is their heart, that emotion. And there's a seat of learning, which is a practical way of doing, that is the hands. Swami calls this 3H. The 3HV, he says, which is the heart, head, and hands. So the head, most of our curriculum is directed towards the head. intellectual learning, logical, analytical, problem solver, etc. And most of the practical things, experiential activities are mostly guided or mostly point towards the hands experience. But what happens is people tend to carry something with them for a long, long time if it touches their heart, a chord in their heart, which is emotion. So it's not very anything difficult for us to understand this. You and I, the things that we remember most about our experiences from the childhood till then would be those experiences where a strong emotion is involved. It could be a praise that somebody gave you early in your life, or it could be criticism that somebody gave you, unfortunately, at the in your early part of the life, and that you felt made a difference to the way you grew up and your sense of self-esteem about yourself, and so on. So, so emotion. An emotion of insult, an emotion of happiness, joy because of a praise, an emotion of competition, all these things, the way jealousy, those things, they get mixed up in the thinking process. And wherever that emotion is strong, perceptible, you will see that that stays as a guideline to you, within you, and then always keeps coming back to your mind, guiding your behaviors. That's the reason why storytelling. I'll just give one example. I was always taken in by the way Swami gave Chinna Kadas. Okay, I heard one Chinna Kada some time back, and I'll share with you the Kada right now, and I'll tell you why it made so much of impact on me. But there was always a statement made by Swami before about the same Chinna Kada, many times in his discourses as an intellectual statement, which I heard. And maybe I repeated it many times, but I could not understand the value and then the gravity of that till I heard this Chinna Kada. And I'll tell you, it's a very interesting Kada. So Swami talks about one man who was a villager, and this story happened in a village of India about 150, 200 years back, when the transportation was not very, very developed. And therefore, this villager on one particular day had to move from his village to some probably about 10 kilometers to 12 kilometers away, another village. So he had to start early in the morning, and he had to walk the forest path, etc. And since he was a food lover, his mother gave him good lot of food and packed, and then he put it on into a sack, and then sack he put it on a stick, and that stick he put it on his shoulder, and he was walking. And as he was walking 1 hour, half an hour, 1 hour, 1.5 hours, the burden of that particular load started becoming so much. He changed it so many times on from one shoulder to another, and then he was going on. And at some point, he felt so tired after 1.5 or 2 hours at 12 o'clock. This is not the usual time that he normally has his lunch, but he felt so hungry, he felt so tired. He sat under a tree and he said, why don't I eat my lunch, being a food lover? So he opened it, and then he initially wanted to have some, but he ate the whole thing. He was so happy. But once he ate the nice food cooked by his mom, he completely felt so energetic. He just rested for a few minutes. He got up, and then he now held that cane or that stick in his hand, and he started walking so briskly that he reached his destination much sooner than what he thought that he would take. Okay. Now, this is the story that Swami tells. Okay. Now, I want to ask if anybody has anything to share about what is your pickup from this story. Anybody can unmute yourself and then please, or you can type in the chat box. You can. What is that you pick up from the story? Okay, I think as a few people have raised their hands. Saumi, Rani.
Less luggage, more comfort.
Less luggage, more comfort. That's fantastic. Very well said. Okay. Anything else?
After finishing,
Food. Mom's food is
after
on.
fin-
Yes.
Mom's food is so delicious that it nourishes you, and then you get all the energy. Fantastic.
You should not waste food also.
Should not waste food. So yeah, he had the whole food. Fantastic. Yeah.
after finishing food, he is unnecessarily carrying that sticks.
The stick he is now using to help him as a prop to walk forward faster, right, in his hand. He's no longer keeping it on his shoulder, by the way. But anybody else who wants to, is there a different viewpoint that somebody wants to take on this?
Sairam
This
sir,
is,
my
yes.
viewpoint. So as long as carrying the food packet along with him, it's extra, weightage for him. But once he consumed that one, it has become part of the body. He not able, after the walking, he not able to feel the weight. This what my understanding is. As long as whatever we study is going to be the apart from our way of life. If we are going to change the way of life, it becomes part and partial, so that the weight will not be there. So the values has to be followed in internally, and it should not be outer. That's what my understanding, sir.
Sir, are you able to see my claps going up? That's for you. Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. Yes, that's what even I gathered from when Swami said that. When I thought about it, so beautiful, because Swami so many times in his discourses said practical knowledge is what matters, and it's not theoretical knowledge. So yeah, that was a good statement, I thought, and then many times I heard, but then I understood when I got into this Chinna Katha, I understood that it is so simple to understand that anything that is just collected like some information, a sack of information like that food, and carried in the head as into the intellect, and then go on preaching others and go on telling others and get your first ranks and the 98% marks, write it in papers, etc., etc. All this, if it is not able to do 1 ounce of difference to my own practical life in a practical way, it is useless. Absolutely useless is what Swami said. That's the word Swami used. It's useless. Okay, it only tires you. It only makes you more. So find a time when you sit down. It's like Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasanam. Shravanam, we heard a lot. Mananam, okay, you thought about it. But when will we get into practice, which is Nididhyasana? So the practical aspect is the most important thing that Swami says in spiritual line as well as everywhere in the world, and meant for our children. I just wanted to share something from my own. I did my engineering in electronics. We did this and that in the practical experiment laboratories. And I'm being very honest. A small electrical problem that happened in my house, my parents, and then they started looking to me and saying that you're an engineer. And I was so shy, I didn't know what to do about it. And then we telephoned our electrician, who is a family electrician kind of person. His son came, just about 12 years old guy. And all the electricity that he learned is from his dad, practically. He came and then fixed it up in 5 minutes and then went away laughing. And then I was there sheepishly and with a ashamed face, I was thinking that this is the power of my 4 years of the engineering with a good rank and all that, right? So it is so strange that our systems are not geared towards practical way of living. And they're more geared towards intellectual, carrying so much of intellectual burden, and then giving big lectures to people, and then doing tons and tons of presentations to people, and getting marks, etc., etc. I'm not being critical in any negative way. I'm just sharing from my example of how my life changed a little bit when I read this Chinna thing, and then thereafter my way of looking at knowledge changed. And then, of course, I understood more from the spiritual perspective that Swamis are telling us, don't just spend all your time in listening, collecting information and all that. Focus more on practicing. Abhi kab karega? When are you going to do focus? Practice. Practice is the key to perfection. Okay. Wherever it takes. Maybe I'll not be as good as somebody else who's better than me in practice, but at least let me start. Let me try. Let me do my bit. This is the thing. So why I again told you this particular thing is in order to just underline this aspect that storytelling. When we do storytelling, now can storytelling be woven well with teaching in today's context? Maybe. I'm not an expert in that. I have a few ideas and few thoughts on how it can be done, but I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to talk about it right now. But I know that there are many, many, many accomplished teachers here in this particular call who probably know how to do it. And if at all there has to be a conversation for me to share my views about how it can be done, probably we'll take it up in a different session, because it itself is a whole session. Okay. So moving on. So transformation benefits of transformation we look at very quickly, and then we will move on to the techniques, because that's the heart of everything. Now, transformative teaching is important because it is not about knowledge but wisdom. The difference is that wisdom is something that changes us, that transforms us. Knowledge is something that just probably stays with us as a memory. And one big stroke of age or whatever, and the memory is gone. So knowledge is like a money that is in our banks that is not used. but money that is withdrawn and then which is converted into anything for your use and necessity becomes wisdom for you. That has done its job. So knowledge has to do its job in order to give you certain next level of movement in your life. So that's why it's called wisdom. And then there's a reason why the word jnana, in Indian context refers to wisdom and not knowledge. Okay, well, this is what I strongly feel. The word jnanam is there are many versions of jnanam. There are many shades of jnanam that is being talked about, like prajnanam, vijnanam, sujnanam, and all that. But the truth is that jnanam is it just refers to wisdom, and it doesn't refer to knowledge per se. And it instills values that guide students for a lifetime. Now, I feel that most of the people who are on this call right now, it is because of certain wonderful values given by your elders, your parents, and what you have picked up along the way, for which you decided to spend this Sunday evening for 1.5 hours on this call. There are so many other people probably in the world who also, either some of them who got the invitation to attend this call, or maybe some others who don't even care about it, who want to spend, who think that why waste a Sunday evening? Abhi kal se to again I'll have to go to the school or college. Why waste a Sunday evening in this session? At the end of it. So this is the samskara that has come up because of values. So I would say that values, what do they do? They're instilled early in your life and my life. They create a samskara. The samskara is going to do the transformation, because the other meaning, Sanskrit word for transformation is also samskara. That's the most beautiful thing. Samskara is also the vasana, what you get from what you have done repeatedly. But samskara is also the transformation that you and I go through, right? And each of us become chosen instruments in some small way. Okay? There are bigger instruments that Swami chooses. There are instruments, there is no comparison. In the Lord's view, in the bigger context of the life's entire life, or what you call Srishti, there is no superior and inferior. Every instrument is an instrument, pretty much like in the garden of a great gardener. There is no difference between a grass flower, a flower that is a grass flower. We call it in Gadipuvu. I don't know what it's called in English, but or even a lily, or even a lotus. Lotus is beautiful in its own way. The grass flower also is beautiful in its own way. And I don't think the gardener differentiates between them. Otherwise, he would not have grown grass flower. Okay. And they have everything has its own place. Everything has its own. But the problem happens when that chota sa flower starts looking at the bigger flower and states, when will I become like that? Oh my God, I'm inferior. It is superior. So I don't think that's the right way. We are, according to me, brothers, sisters, we are neither inferior nor superior to anybody. We are all the same. Okay, because we are all children of God. Now, the transformative teaching is important because it creates responsible, compassionate, and balanced individuals. The children that you and I are working with, what they need is a sense of responsibility, the ownership to say that this is mine. I have to take care of this, not think that somebody else is going to take care of that. Second, compassion, karuna. And that is what creates a sense of balance in that. In fact, there's a very great Kriti of Tyagaraja. He's one of my role models. I like his Kritis a lot. I'll say that, and a very popular Kriti called Yendaro Mahanubhavulu, one of the Ganaraga Pancharatna Kritis, and in which Tyagaraja Swami says that Hariguna Manimaya Saramulu Galamuna Sobhillu Bhakta Kotulu Ilalo Telivito, Chelimito, Karuna Kalgi, Jagamellanu Sudha Vristiche Brochuvaru Yandaro Mahanubhavulu. Now, I'm not getting into the tune part. That's fine. I'm not a great singer. But the point is, the lyrics are very important. What is being told by Saint Tyagaraja is very important. He says, who are these great people? Yandaro Mahanubhavulu. Who are these great people who are there as role models for us in the society? He says they have three main qualities. While they have many qualities, Harikuna Manimaya Saramulu, they have so many in their neck. They have these necklaces which are all full of beads called the gunas, qualities of Hari. Hari Guna Manimaya. They are all wearing that, so many. But there are three qualities that stand out for all these great people. What are the three qualities? And then he says, Telivito, Chelimito, Karuna kalgi. They have televi. Televi doesn't mean intellect. In fact, most of the rotten intellect and then the intellect to dupe others that we normally deploy is what is called cleverness in this world. It cannot be even called intellect. That's not the televi. Televi in Telugu actually refers to consciousness. That's why in Telugu, I don't know what it is called in other languages. In Telugu, when someone loses their consciousness, they get into a semi-conscious or unconscious state, we say televi tappadu, which means their televi has gone away. That's what. And then some water is poured on them or sprinkled on them so that they'll get up. They become conscious again. So consciousness, or that which is there, which is a divine thing that is animating this body, that consciousness has to be televito, has always to be kept in mind, which means you need to be aware of that. Televito means being aware and alert. Being aware and be aware, be alert. That's what it's saying. That's called Baba, actually. Be aware, be alert. That's what Swami defined it as, which means televito. Chelimito, which means with friendship. Friendship. Friendship is an affection that you show. Friendship is a relationship by which you are ready to understand the other person and not misunderstand. Whether anybody does it or not, mother does it for sure. Mother does it for sure. That is why Chelimito, I would like to link it up to Sai, because Sai means mother. Sai. So Baba is your Telivi, and then Chilimi is Sai. We know what are the qualities of Swami. Therefore, okay, Karuna Galgi, compassion, that is love, that he exudes. And Swami's love is my form, Swami said. Love is my form, truth is my breath. And Karuna, therefore, compassion is actually there in everyone. And it is something that is in the form of love that has to come out. Karuna, when it comes out and then exhibits to others, it comes out as empathy and then concern and love. Right? So these things we have to bring out in the children. That's what is the transformation we are talking about. It's not, we are not talking about transformative teaching as something that makes the student go from 70% to 80%. You're all masters in that. You're also probably masters in the transformative teaching. But what I'm saying is that in my view, transformative teaching is something that enables the student to bring out whatever is innate as a divine Atma, so that they turn out to be the best citizens in this world. They bring in harmony in this society. That's the reason why we need to do transformative teaching. Okay. We need to touch that chord in every human being, who is a divine being. Most of you would know that Swami, whenever he starts a discourse, he would call divine Prematma Sarupalara, Divyatma Sarupalara. He calls everybody your divine Atma. Now, when he is saying, and he speaks always the truth, when he is saying your divine Atma, who am I to say that no, I'm not divine? I'm divine. So there is divinity here, whether I manifest it or not right now. Now, who is the teacher? Teacher is the catalytic agent who is able to make the student manifest this in many beautiful ways. Okay, so that is why we say that compassion is one such quality that has to be brought out. Okay, so why do we need to do that again? What is the impact we can see straight away? Three things. Value-driven students become leaders of integrity. And today we know what is the political situation, what is the leaders in all aspects of the society, not just politics. You take business, you take governance, you take administration, you take any system, and then you see that leadership is actually going through a lot of crisis. Okay. Again, we can't get into that. The time is not right for that. But one of the things that leaders need, which is again and again coming up, is integrity. Who but these young children are tomorrow's leaders in the country? They're not going to come from a different sample. They're going to come. So what is that you and I can do? I do not know, brothers, sisters, how your performance appraisal is done in your colleges and schools. Maybe your principals and your college management put a big tick if you are able to get a big percentage changes for marks in students. But the divine teacher, the divine master, Swami, the God, who's always looking at you, because he has given you this noble profession, you and me, this noble profession, because I also call myself with all enthusiasm and then happiness and joy that I am also a teacher, because I do trainings and then I do teaching. Therefore, for all of us who Swami has chosen to impart something to others, when does he tick and where? How does he do a performance appraisal? Not because somebody has got marks. When these divine qualities, we make an attempt to bring it up. We act, do that catalytic agent's work we do. Whether it happens through us, please don't even have the doubt, because the work is divine. If the work is divine, he's going to do it. It'll get done. But we have to be the agents. There has to be an agency for everything. So we have to be ready to be that instrument and agency. We need not think, oh, if I tell, who will listen? Why not? Why not? If people can listen to stupid film stories, if people can listen to stupid economics news, why can't they listen to values? And then why can't they listen to the glorious impact of human life? If every generation of teachers is leaving it out and then not really bothered about it, who's going to bother? And then where are we going to live this country? In a lurch. This country is going to end up in a lurch if children are not getting. The reason why Bal Vikas has been started by Swami. It's not just about the students. After all, they get papam. The teachers get a little time in the school, but even the mothers at home should do it. The parents, both the parents at home should do it. They also have a responsibility, not just for your child, for a few children around. Don't look at the economic levels of people. Your servant maid's son, daughter. Get everybody. Teach them something. They go to schools where they don't even get proper attention, and then they might turn out to be get into juvenile crime. They will see everywhere that people around them have the haves are sporting the best of the mobile phones, or they get into the best of the cars, and these people are always thinking, when am I going to get that? Why am I deprived of that? And so on. So value is what is going to create that balance in students. Otherwise, we have a big danger coming up. And impact on the society is also, when we do this transformation, it strengthens the teacher-student bond as a relationship of trust and respect. Today, I know that this is missing. We keep hearing in YouTube and social media a lot of stories of how both ways, the students disrespect the teachers, and teachers are also misusing sometimes, very rare, but sometimes they misuse their position, and it looks very ugly. These are not the examples definitely we want to have in front of us. Now, one question that always comes up is that I've had friends, and then I've had many people who are teachers, and we know that economic need is a big need for them too. I'm not denying that. But the point is, there are some noble professions where one has to be very clear that what drives that role, that profession, is dharmam and not dhanam. Swami says, dharma moolam idam jagat, not dhanamulam idam jagat. Do your best, teach best, keep moving on your career if you have to go somewhere. Nobody denies. Create so much of effectiveness that your own school or your own college has to hold you back, giving you higher salary because of the impact you make in transforming students. No problem. Okay, everything will happen. Maybe to a certain extent, that's all fine. Not to a greedy extent, but to a certain extent, that's all fine. But what about dharma? Who is going to take care of dharma? Today, very proudly, some people say, not even proudly, matter-of-factly, people will say that there are departments like your income tax, and then maybe some central excise departments where from top to toe, everybody is corrupt. You cannot be a clean guy if you go there. That's what people talk about. What a blasphemy that we have in the society. What a blasphemy, really. Would you want to send your children into those departments? Would you want to send your students into these departments? No, if we don't want to do that, if we don't want to end up there, I think values, we need to look at the transformation angle. We need to look at the minimum thing that a student should be taught is to respect elders, trust the teacher, and have that. That's so beautiful. And when they are children, they get, but unfortunately, because of the social media and then whatever game we are playing in the society, the innocence of the child is being lost very early, I feel. Teachers can be a great catalyst in actually reviving that innocence again. Right? And we can discuss about it if required. And other benefit is that, of course, creates a ripple effect, transforming communities and societies. So what we mean is that even if not many people are doing 1, 2, 3, or this small group of people who are attending the session today, decide to become the transformation agents, and you are doing it. The 20 people or 40 people or 50 people here can tomorrow take this from 50 to 100, 100 to 200, and it can keep multiplying that, and then you never know the power of this kind of compounding that can happen. It's beautiful. It better happen as a ripple effect rather than we trying to make it en masse, because values cannot be taught en masse. According to me, values require a certain level of sincerity in the person who's actually wanting to get it. And first you have to create the sincerity in the person by appealing to their heart, and then only you can talk about a value. Else values are diluted and they become a laughing stock. There are today, with the freedom of press and freedom of whatever people talk about, there are people who make light of inspirational characters from itihasas. And then the art, so-called art, whether it is paintings or whether it is movie making or whether it is literature, because of the freedom of speech, that's what is being talked about. Freedom of speech, people are bringing down the sanctity of certain role models. Now, I'm not someone who says that freedom of speech should be curbed. But what is freedom of speech without a sense of responsibility? Would anybody like someone in front of you talking about you and giving you feedback as they want, without really a sense of responsibility that the feedback is intended to improve you? If they take up the responsibility that the feedback should improve you, they are going to be more choosy about their words. They are going to give it in such a way that you have more chance to implement the feedback. So they're going to be more love, they're going to be more concerned, there's going to be, the positive is going to be shown as a positive, and then the negative. This is a balanced way of looking at it. So I'm all for balanced societies and balanced viewpoints in the society. I feel this is true democracy. But without sense of responsibility, if everyone starts talking about, I can talk whatever I want, it is like that stick example that Swami has given, the freedom of speech. What freedom of speech? Your freedom of speech ends where the other person is being hurt. You can't hurt anybody in this world just like that. It cannot happen. So there's a lot of skewed thinking, colored thinking, immature thinking happening even in presses and then in TV interviews and then the highest level of representation in the social media. So what should the next generation grow up with? Unfortunately, if role models are being brought down, what should you set up as a role model? The reason why there is a very, very, very rapid need for transformation in our society. Very rapid need, I feel. It cannot be happening in slow steps. It has to be like a moral rearmament movement that was taken up some time back in the world. And if this is not done, people understand the value of losing a few crores of rupees in this world. And if a few crores, they know that they will go to any extent to see that they don't lose. But losing values in the society that are worth billions and billions of crores, each of us, nobody's bothered. Nobody's bothered about it, the loss. And we are simply saying that, okay, okay, what can we do? It is like that. This is not what we are expected to do. We are all instruments of Swami, and then we can do something better. So what can we do? I want to get into the techniques part. But before that, if there is anything that anybody, because it has been a little bit of monologue till now, with a little bit of interaction now, I want to just stop here for 2 to 3 minutes before I get into the last part of the techniques and through a caselets analysis side. So till 8:30, 5-6 minutes, we can have some conversation. If there are any questions or anything anybody wants to say, please feel free.
Hello.
Saumi Rani, sister, do you want to say something?
Sure.
Sister Saumi Rani?
Hello.
Yes, your voice is pretty low, sister.
Hello.
It's better. Can you please say out, speak out?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, please say what, because you raised your hand, I called you.
Your explanation is okay. I am understanding, but present is the student are facing so many problems. But how can we teach the values? That's the most challenging in today's days. No?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll not answer that pretty long right now, because I'll be getting into the techniques, and then which means that I'm going to tell you how to do it. But in short, my answer would be that this is not an isolated case, sister. Situations have always been like that in the past too, in the history. When you look at, there's always low and high. in the low period, it looks like it is hopeless. But how do you get the thing out? How do you actually come out of the situation? The resolution and then should start from somebody in a small way. And these people should be immune about what happens around them and then take up the resolve. So here, let's just talk about having the will at this stage. There are two aspects to anything, will and the skill. So right now, I'll just say that if you have the will that you want to do it, then be ready. Then we can always talk about the skill. That's what I would say. Skill will come. Skill is the easier part. Will is the tougher part.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Tirupati, please start.
Tirupati. Okay, there do not seem to be anybody. So should we go ahead with our presentations?
Is there any question, please? Please utilize this opportunity fully. Before sir going for the next session, if there is any clarification you need, please come forward. Sairam, thank you.
Okay, sir. I think anyway, we have the next session where it's going to be a little interactive, and then I would be expecting you to answer a few things. Or we can also quickly, once we do that, if there is time, we can also come back towards the end. But if you have anything in your mind, please don't hold it back. No question is small or big. I'll try to answer if Swami permits. If I'm not able to answer, definitely I'll carry that question with me. I'll try to contemplate on that with Swami in mind. I'll come back to you even at a later time if I can give the answer. So please don't, no question is big or small. So therefore, please do put it out somewhere as we go by. Okay, so we know the Kadambar. Yeah, whether you have something to say? I think he was just putting a chat message saying thanking. So thanks a lot also to you, brother, for being part of this. So let me just move on now to the next one. Just can somebody please again confirm to me if you are able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Okay. And I hope nobody has any problem or issue with my voice to audio. You're able to hear clearly?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Great. Thank you. Now, let's start with this. Yes? Was somebody trying to say something? Okay. A true teacher is one who makes himself an example. That's what Swami has always said this. In fact, he made his life an example. That's why he says, my life is my message. Born in a small village, hardly had any school education, thought about the state, and then was concerned about the whole creation. And then he said that he was such a visionary that he saw always beyond that small village, that small not just the country but the entire humanity per se. And you see what magical impact that he has created. So and all that because he stood there from the time he announced himself at a very young age of about 14 till the time he gave up his physical body, and even after that, of course, he continues to be active. But you see the way he lived in this small village called Puttaparthi, and then did such things that the whole world came to that particular place and tried to pay respect to him and learn from him, the Jagat Guru, of how he has done that. Presidents, prime ministers, leaders, business leaders, artists of the greatest caliber, who not? Everyone, the Jagat Gurus, the other Pitadipatis, everyone came to Swami, and then they wanted to learn this. They wanted to be part of that love that he radiated. So this is so when he is giving a statement saying that I expect teacher to be an example, we can see that he himself was a teacher, so he was an example, and then that's fine. Will clap for that. But what happens next after that? He says that that's not good enough. You need not clap for me, but can you make your life a little like that? Can you become my messenger? Can you become my instrument? And how do I do that, Swami? Just follow some principles, be committed. First, have the strong will that you are going to do it. Then the skill part will come, and I'm going to give you all techniques, is what Swami says. So let us look at one caselet to start with. Okay, now in this again, this is an interactive part. It will keep coming up. 5 caselets will come up from now on. I'll be moving on very quickly, and then I'll take the questions at the end of it. So I would request anyone who's making notes to make your notes. I can also share this PPT to Mukundan sir or anybody, the program coordinators, if you wanted that. However, what is very important is that I want you to answer in the chat box, give your answer to this particular caselet, and then therefore we come to the technique. You over here, 2 students discussing how they cheated on a test. As their teacher, you are aware that addressing this could impact their academic records and trust within the class, right? So what are you going to do? Ignore the situation. They might realize their mistake later. Call them aside privately and encourage them to confess the truth. Confront them in class to set an example for others. Speak to their parents without informing the students. Can you quickly type out ABCD in your chat box? And I request after 10 seconds, the moderator to please read it out. Okay, can we have the answers?
B.
B, call them aside privately and
Yes.
encourage them to confess the truth. Any one of you who has opted for B, can I request you to unmute yourself and then give your reason why you chose B?
Because, Saram sir,
Saram?
yes, we have, means if we call them as a privately to the students, so we can develop the good relationship between students. So, literally, student can follow our some instructions. It may be.
What happens? What happens, sister, if you do the C, confront them in the class?
So we are in this class. Mostly we are telling to some instruction to the student, but who want to get more follow the students, they are not recognize my words. So on those times, we can call them privately to ask them to that. So really, it is understood that student.
Right. So, for example, you overheard 2 students discussing how they cheated on a test. Like those 2, A and B, are talking to each other and they're saying that, hey, that's the way I cheated on a test. Now, the C option is saying that you can confront in front of the whole class and say that, hey, A and B, I've known that you are cheated. Why did you cheat? This is confrontation, right?
Okay.
And therefore you can show them and tell everybody, this is not what you should do, you people should do. So that's what C option, for example, says. So I was asking you the question, sister, why shouldn't you go for C and why for B?
Sir, can I please?
Please.
Sir, their moral balance that will come down if they are confronted in front of the whole class.
Okay.
So they won't. It will make them. It will make them sad, and it is not going to give them any, neither to the other students or to them.
Right. Right. So what is eroding there? What is that we are losing there, sister?
Like if you are calling them and speaking privately, they will understand their mistake and they will not repeat it again. But if you are telling
Right.
it in front of the whole class, they feel very bad, embarrassed, and they won't feel like listening to the teacher again.
Correct. Correct.
So
So,
I think it is always better we give them small advices, calling them personally. They feel also very comfortable to talk with us. Why did they do that? And they feel guilty that they had done a big mistake and they should not repeat.
Exactly. Particularly the current generations are, we know that ego is pretty much prevalent in with all of us, and therefore handling ego is the toughest thing in this world in relationships. And you are dealing with another ego. They could be children, they could be students, but you are dealing with two egos there. That's what we should understand. And all other egos who are in the class too. Okay. When you confront them in front of them, and then you say that this is not what you should do. You're not supposed to cheat. And then instead of getting the point that you want to say, what are they getting? They're saying they're thinking that this teacher wants to pull me down in front of everybody. And the others are thinking this teacher is cannot be relied upon, and we should be careful. We should never even discuss these kind of things in the class so that he overhears. He should never know what is being done. So it is not helping the cause at all. And people only lose their trust in you, and then they get more secretive in your presence. So the trust is lost. Therefore, don't shame people publicly, and create more accountability by nurturing them, and then talk in such a way which is guided by what Swami says. So let us see, how do we inspire honesty and integrity? This is the very first thing that is a technique that I am giving. Encourage students to embrace truth in thought, word, and deed. When you call such students, tell them that, hey, it's okay to be straightforward. Okay, you in fact tell always students that if you are asking a question to somebody, suppose you are asking as simple a thing as what is your name? Would you want the other person to tell you the truth or lie? For example, his name is Sanjay. Would you want them to tell you that it is some Vikram? Why? So everybody expects to hear the truth. Then you say that when you expect to hear truth from the other person, what stops you from speaking truth to the other person? Then the children will, such conversation is important, and then the children will start telling you that, hey, but madam, when I tell the truth, nobody cares, and then people will punish me. It so happened in my house that when I told the truth, they punished me more. So that, yes, that can happen sometimes, but you say that if people get used to, people also will appreciate you. They might not immediately tell you, but people appreciate you when you tell the truth, because they know that they themselves are not able to follow that very strictly. It could be parents, it could be some elders, it could be anybody, friends, but they're not able. Therefore, people inside them, they have a lot of respect for those who speak truth. And you will see that gradually, that if you sustain speaking truth for a while, whenever you say truth, it will be taken at face value that this person means it. And whenever people want to know exactly about something, they'll come to you instead of going to others and say, can you please tell us what happened? Right? No, this is the power of truth. It builds so much of credibility for the individual. So this kind of thing should be can be told to the child, particularly at an young age, and then they will understand that very well. So truth should be it should be enhanced. It should be said that's the greatest quality. Don't fall for the cheaper thing. Go for the greatest quality. That kind of talk we should do to these children. Real life stories or anecdotes to highlight the power of honesty. You can give some from your own life and or from anybody else's life. It could be from their parents' life or something. Preferably, if you are telling stories from something that they can relate to, the children can relate to, their group, their parents, their children, their friends, etc. They'll be, or the role models that they like. Maybe Sachin Tendulkar, maybe somebody else. All right. So when you are able to, sorry.
Sairam sir, once it happened to me also. My son, when he was in class 4, something bad happened in the class, and the principal just came in and he asked my son, Sai, what happened? What was wrong with? So everybody was so annoyed. They asked every time, Mrs. Munshi, when you come to class, you're asking Sai what happened, why not to others? So she said
Right.
that I will always tell the truth. So it was a great. I just remember.
Absolutely. So thanks so much, sister, for actually sharing that. This is it. They are happening. It's not that, because these are fundamental principles. Fundamental principles have to happen. They're directed by Lord, God. So we can, what is human power in front of Lord's power? Only thing is that somebody needs to have that strength to live by that. Yes, we keep falling. It's not, when I'm saying that, it's not that I'm able to live every time. It's not that I have not told lies. And that's the truth with all of us. We have told lies, but it is good to accept and come back. It is good to accept that that's a lower quality in us. We have a much bigger quality also in us, nobility in us, which is the divine tattva. Okay, so that has to be, and children will do it much better. You know that, parents, we keep telling them sometimes that, oh, don't tell the truth, don't tell the lies, and then they catch us telling the lies. Many times it can happen. I'm sure each of us would have an example of that. They are very straightforward. So it is good for us not to kill that innocence in them. It is good for us not to kill that straightforwardness in them. by using our cleverness and then our crooked technologies of the mind to somehow suggest and then justify whatever we are saying as truth. When we do that for our own selfish interest, we will also put them on the wrong thing. So, yadidacharati srestha tattade vitarojaraha sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvartate. That is the saying from Gita, where the Lord is saying that yadidacharati srestha, as a leader, as an exemplary person, just as a role model follows or acts, yadidacharati says tattade vitarojanaha. The same way everybody who's following them will do. Sayat pramanam kurute. That person, the standard that they accept as a standard, everybody will accept as a standard. The reason why Krishna in the Gita at some point says that I have nothing to do in this world, I have no work. Basically, I get nothing out of doing this, whatever I'm doing. But why do I do? Because if I stop doing, everybody else will also follow. Probably crores of people were already following Krishna as a role model at that time. So in order to see that they don't fall away from their path, I have to keep doing something. So I have to do my Sanjay I have to feel like this is what exactly Swami did. This is what exactly Swami did. He has to stand as an example, right? So we need to model honesty as a teacher to inspire, and then we need to live that. So that is one very interesting thing. We'll go and move on. There's a second caselet. Your school plans to cut down the trees in the playground to build a parking lot. This decision conflicts with environmental ethics, but it is supported by senior management. As a teacher, students look up to you for guidance. Now your students are asking, teacher, what should we do? Please tell us something. What would you do? Support the decision to align with management, which means like saying that, no, that is management's decision. We can't do much about it. I think the trees needs to be cut. Second, encourage students to write letters advocating for saving the trees. Third, organize a protest with students against the decision. Fourth, stay silent to avoid conflicts. What would you do? Please take 10 seconds and then type out your answer in the chat box. Okay, can we have the answers? What is the right answer?
Sir, no one answered this question.
No one answered. Okay.
Yes,
Let's go to the answer. Guide students to express their views respectfully. Teaching them the value of standing up for what is right through peaceful and constructive means. This is very important, particularly in a democratic system like ours. It is important for people to voice out what is right. When somebody said much harm happened to the country not because of the crying and then shouting of bad people, but because of the silence of good people. So when something which you think is wrong, which is adharma, is happening, keeping quiet is not an answer. There's a reason why Swami in one of the discourses said, don't be like Bhishmas, be like Vibhishana, Swami said. In that discourse, what he meant is that in front of the entire Sabha, if Draupadi is being disrobed, this great person Bhishma, if he only stood up and then picked up his bow, everybody would have run. Because even at the age of 130 plus, he stood in the war, and for 10 days, where he stood, they were the winners every day. So that was the power. And he was the strong guy who kept up the entire Kuru dynasty. Now, he gave some stupid reason, and then he was keeping quiet of something like as atrocious as Draupadi being disrobed. Now, how can you agree with this? Whatever it might be, however great he might be in his life, how can you agree with this adharma? That is why, whoever the person might be, I said there's a reason why we should not feel inferior or superior to anybody. They also can do something like adharma, and when they do adharma, we should point out and say that this is not what we are supposed to do. That's the key thing, right? So we should encourage our students, who are the next generation of citizens of this country, to protest and say that they are not with this, but do it in a way that is not like going and protesting on the roads. Okay, or saying that I won't do this, or non-cooperation movements. That's not what. We'll not stay in the class, we'll sit out of the class. It's not right. It's not right. The right way is that express your view, write your letters in a nice, respectful way to the management, and then leave it to them. Now, beyond that, you can't do much. Beyond that, because it's not your property. Okay, you can give your viewpoint, right? So that is, I think that's a very important value that teachers can teach. Okay, we go on to the what Swami says in this. Courage is the thing that allows us to do dharma, and whenever we do adharma, it is because of our weakness. Okay, teach students to discern right from wrong through discussions and case studies. Kind of once in a while, even if you're teaching mathematics, even if you're teaching physics, once in a while, make it interesting by telling a few things about having the courage to do something. And then it's okay to have a viewpoint, your own viewpoint, and then express it in this world. There's nothing wrong. Also, students need to know, particularly boys need to know, that they should allow the girls and then the female community to express their own thoughts. I mean, because still in a murky kind of family orientation, boys are being sometimes brought up saying that you are somehow more superior. So it is very important for teachers to play a role where they say that, hey, everybody has an equal chance to express their views and you should do it, right? But not in a way that is disrespectful of others. Not in a way that you go onto the streets and then throw stones at something. Not in a way where you set fire the buses or whatever it is. Not in a way by which you actually stay away from your dharma of what you are doing. Like a student, you should not stay out of the class. That's not the way you do it. Okay, you have to silently do what you're doing, but you can express your in many ways, right? The management and then see. So that's the kind of thing that we have to do. Today, we are talking about freedom of press. How many of us are writing in the press? There are so many avenues and there are so many ways where individual thought can be expressed as a citizen, a voter, a common man in the country can express their viewpoint. But the point is, there is no ownership of the government. Now, it's a for people, to people, by people. This says there's no ownership of the government. What happens is that we say that, okay, so wo jo karega, wo karega. Ab mai kya karu? I mean, if I get my salary and if my family is good, if I go for my first show movie on Sundays, and if I get my money, and if I'm able to send my daughters and then sons to the US, and if I get my retirement kitty, and then if I'm able to live happily, my investments are intact, then everything is fine. If this is our only outlook, I'm not saying any of these things are not required, by the way, please don't get me wrong. They might be required and we might have to do it, but then it doesn't remove our obligation and then responsibility to be a citizen of this country. So when there is something going wrong, we need to raise our voice. So classroom culture, when the teachers create where ethical behavior, I can go on giving you examples, but when there is bullying of a particular student, or when eve teasing happens in the classes, etc., take this opportunities not to overlook that. Even if you feel that it's going to make you unpopular, stop there with all love and then care and concern, explain to people why it is wrong. Forget about your physics and geography that you are teaching at that time. That physics and geography did not do any difference to their life, honestly speaking. Sorry if I'm being very, the physics and geography teachers should pardon me. But what I'm saying is that who is teaching these life values? And we are, when the people who know keep quiet, while they see all this, while it is growing up, when it becomes a cancer in the society, who can stop it? Who is causing all those rapes and then those eve teasing on the road, and who is causing all those cyber crime that's happening right now? Who's doing all that? You're educated people. People who are probably, for whatever reason, could not make it too big in their life. They are jumping into all these things and then they want easy money. Why are we allowing these things? And where they have to be nipped in the bud, they have to be nipped in the bud. That's very important. This is a side for all the teachers who are also parents. When you see your children back answering, or when you see your children taking sides with the parents and then promoting one parent and then criticizing the other parents, or telling, take that very objectively and then take a stance about it. This is adharma. Have the courage to say that, no, you can't speak about dad like that. You can't speak about mom like that. You cannot. You won't understand everything that he does for you. So have this courage, have that character actually to stand for dharma and not adharma. So dharma is what actually, dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. And it is, the world runs on dharma. God's law runs on dharma. It doesn't run on dhana. Dhana doesn't make it run. Dhana is so flimsy. It falls within no time. Like a Bombay Stock Exchange. Okay, it just falls. Let's not become Harshad Mehta's and then do get into all this money laundering kind of thing, in the sense that values are more based on dharma. Economic value might be based on dana, I don't care, but even economic value is actually based on dharma, according to me. So that is what we need to teach. Okay, the foundation, Swami says, in order to create a meaningful life is dharma, righteousness. Okay, a heated argument breaks out between two students during a group activity. Both are unwilling to back down and it disturbs the class. These are the four options. Let them resolve it themselves, as this is a learning opportunity. Intervene and ask the class to mediate. Separate the students to temporarily and counsel them individually. Punish both students for their behavior. What is the right answer? Please take 10 seconds and answer.
Stop the class.
Okay, stop the class. Intervene and ask the class to mediate. Is that what you meant? Okay. Since the time is C. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So C is the right answer. You have to separate out the students temporarily and counsel them individually, because the conflict, the root of the conflict has to be understood. Most often what happens in conflicts is that two people will be fighting, but to get the support of the entire crowd, they try to generalize it and then make it everybody else's business. That's not always true. The conflict is between two people. So as an intelligent mediator, you got to separate out the conflict from the group. This is what is a very good technique for all teachers. So take them out and then say that I'll deal with you. I'll talk to you at the end of the class. Let them continue if you're at all in the class right now. You not stop the class, but tell them that I'll talk to both of you. Right now you will sit down. At the end of the class, I'll meet you. Both of you meet me and then I'll talk to you about it. Right. So going to the root of the conflict, most of the times conflict is such a thing that you hear two groups version. From each group's version, everything looks okay, because it's viewpoint. You go to the neighboring country, they say that this is your country is done a lot of injustice to us. You come to this country, these people will say your country has done a lot of injustice to us. On the border, they're regularly having conflicts. Now you don't know, wherever you go, now who is to be sided and who is to be actually taken as the right person, right thing. That's why conflict requires an understanding. That's why judgment is not easy. In legality, judgment is not easy. And often why it takes a lot of time is because in order to go to the root of the problem to understand, because the judgment can be pronounced without enough evidence, that can go wrong and it can ruin somebody's life. So judgments have to go to the root of the problem. That's why usually in a country like ours, in a constitutional system like ours, judgment takes a little time, because the fundamentals are put in such a way that you cannot punish somebody without having enough evidence. That's the key thing. You need to go to the root of the problem. Similarly, while the teachers are talking to the students, don't get carried away by one student who gets more marks, or one student probably that you like a little bit, or the other student. No, that's not the point there. You need to really hear from both of them and understand what is the root of the conflict. Okay, so the next one, before that, this is like, how do you create shanti around you, right? This is the thing. How do you create? We have seen dharma. And how do you create shanti around you? Use mindfulness exercises like silent sitting or meditation to foster. First of all, I would suggest each of you as a teacher to train yourself for about 15 to 20 minutes into deep breathing and then silent sitting in your daily life. Please incorporate that. If you're already doing, fantastic, pranams to you. But if you're not doing, please do that because it helps a lot in your emotional intelligence. And your emotional intelligence comes to your fore and help whenever you're dealing with difficult situations, right? Because it's the emotions that get affected. And if you want to create calm, you yourself cannot be worked up. For example, if an entire class of children are shouting, and they're very noisy. Imagine a teacher who comes and then shouts more than them. Hey, all of you keep quiet. Now, what is the likelihood of anybody keeping quiet? Just because, can you shout louder than the other children in order to? So what should be the way that an emotionally intelligent teacher handles the situation? You should go and stand in front of them and then just keep calmly looking at them. Have the courage to just stand in front of them and keep looking at them. And stand like that and keep looking at them. Without an angry face or without a very pleasant smile or whatever, but just keep looking at them objectively so that they calm down. It's very important. That shows your emotional intelligence to stay put and then exhibit that strength of character to be able to stand in front of people and expose yourself to the looks of people. Probably some of them are still trying to say something, but keep looking at them. And then probably when everybody is coming down, one or two voices are going out, you can just ask, can we start if everybody calms down? And then say that thanks a lot for your calmness. And it's always as civilized people, it helps us a lot if actually one person is talking at a time. And that's the way we hear each other, isn't it? So something like that you can get as a agreement with them, and then you can move on. Don't get into bad mood. Be pleasant. But then don't make it too lenient by laughing because of if you laugh out to their behaviors or endorsing their behaviors, don't endorse their behaviors. So also, when conflicts happen, which happen between students, encourage them to resolve conflicts calmly. Say that, hey, right now both of you are worked up, calm down. Tomorrow morning, sit down. And then if you require, I can also be there and talk out whether it really means anything to you. That's why you see children, they fight this moment and next moment they play with each other. Okay, so now of course that is about small children, but even if they grow up into teens and all that, they will usually, when you encourage them to sit together and then meet at a separate time with a calm mind, they're going to do a better job. And they'll be faster because the ego is there, but the ego is still a little subservient to the system. So they can do, but if they learned it, if they learn to tell sorry to someone if they did a mistake, I'll tell you, they're going to grow up to be beautiful citizens. This is very important. Beautiful parents, beautiful adults in the society, because we should have the common sense to say sorry when we are wrong. And similarly, we should have the common sense to say thank you when we need to express our gratitude. Why do these two words become so difficult in the society? This is the ego. That's what ego does to us. Okay. And then, so when you are equanimous, when you are calm because of your pranayama, because of your nature of thinking, and then your calmness, you'll see that there's a huge chance for everybody else to become calm. But if we are worked up, we cannot expect or aspire to really bring any calmness. So that is how Shanti you bring around you. That's why Swami says peace is within, not outside. It's born of self-control, right? That's what Swami is saying. Okay, fourth one. A shy student consistently avoids participating in activities and seems disengaged. You sense they might be struggling with personal issues. What do? We very commonly come across this situation of there is always such students or more of them shy there. Give them additional homework to encourage participation. Pair them with supportive peers in group activities. Speak to them privately and offer your support. Ignore the situation, they will improve with time. Please take a few seconds and answer. Okay. Any answers?
That's it.
Pair them with supportive. Pair them with supportive.
Pair them with supportive peers into group activities. Okay, nice. Okay, let us see what is the right answer. You show genuine care and support as love fosters trust and confidence. Speak to them privately and offer your support. Often, what in psychology we call introvert behaviors can happen with children because even two children born in the same house, one can be extrovert and one can be introvert. And introversion is not anything wrong. Please don't force them to become extrovert. At the same time, talk to them. Talk to them about what they feel and why they close up when some people are coming to them, and encourage them to get into some situations, engineer some situations where they have to take the lead and then do a few things, but gradually do these things. Gradually. For example, as a teacher, you can ask them to make an announcement to the class before you go there, and then stand in front of the people and say that, hey, the teacher explained in 5 minutes, and meanwhile, she wanted us to go through page number 75. Just make that announcement. So like that, you encourage these people to participate in front of groups, etc., in small ways. And then gradually you'll see that they will. And I always appreciate them for what they're doing. Don't get, hey, why are you not like others? Why don't you, mingle with others? Don't tell, particularly as parents, please don't tell this to children. That too, when some auntie or uncle are coming from outside in front of them, don't keep saying things like, this fellow, he doesn't mix with anybody. He doesn't talk to others. Your intention, of course, is always as a parent good for them. But if people do that, thinking that if I do that now, they will start doing it. If I say like this, they will take that criticism, they'll take that feedback and they'll start doing it. No, they will lose trust in you. they would start developing some other complex now. They will start thinking that my mom or dad doesn't like me. All that they want to do is that they want to expose me. Don't they have any faults? Is it something wrong if I'm introvert? So these are very sensitive issues. Psychology of children has to be handled with soft gloves, soft hands, not with hard hands. Okay, and let's always remember that we can do only till that much. Okay, but be encouraging and supportive. Beyond that, Lord will take care. And who knows, maybe the person is will continue to be a little reserved throughout his life, but they can be very successful. When their self-esteem is not made to feel that you are useless if you are not speaking. If that thing goes away from their mind, they can be a little reserved, but they can be very successful. There are so many people like that, right? Today, behavioral sciences are recognizing that introverts can be great leaders. There are greatest of the leaders who are introverts and not extroverts. So it's not one model for everybody. Let's not make this model, sir. Sab kuch se baat karna hai, sab kuch se people. Only those children who are very jumping around and all are really nice children. And you always keep telling your children, be like them, be like them. No, don't get into those things. Let's appreciate each child, but give them some chances to come out of their shells. They are in a shell right now, so they have to come out of their shell. The shell could be happening because of some inhibitions, some fears they picked up in somewhere in their life. So that's it. And so that's what has to be taught with a lot of love. Here, this is where we need to have empathy, and it has to be unconditional, a lot of patience. The words that are associated with love or prema are patience and empathy. Kind words. We can't lose our thing. Now, one can say that it's easier said than done. Yes, but tell me, by becoming angrier, are you going to achieve anything? Why are you doing that? If see, we ourselves that we blame for what we do in anger. Because if we say that, when Swami tells us that approach anybody with love, some people will say that, no, that's not practical. And then I have to shout. Now, you are thinking that shouting is going to change those people or getting there. They might, for the time being, develop a fear of you and then do something, but they develop more different kind of more complexes about it. Do you understand this? What anger is doing? If you understood this, then you wouldn't want to get into anger. Anything that you use love or anger is only technique you are using in managing others. So why do you want to use a wrong technique and then coming to a conclusion and judgment that is what will work? No, it is like people saying that unless you bribe the people, you can never build your house, so therefore bribe. Now, everybody is doing it, so let me also do it. Everybody is getting angry, because only by shouting the child will listen. No, that is why if somebody doesn't want to do all this, you need not be a parent. Nobody will force you. Nobody has forced you to be a parent. But if you take a responsibility to be a parent, be a kind parent. If you take a responsibility to be a teacher, be a loving teacher. There's no other way. That is the thing. And organize activities that teach compassion. I already spoke about Karuna. So I'll move on to the last one. This is the last one. A student posts an unkind comment about you on social media. This is again some of the latest issues that are happening where social media is available. Everybody posts everything there. All children are on Instagram or whatever. And then therefore, suppose somebody puts an unkind comment. While it hasn't gone viral, some students are aware of it and you are aware of it. Therefore, what would you do? Confront the student in front of the class to discourage such behavior. Ignore the comment and continue teaching as usual. Discuss it calmly with the student to understand their perspective. Report the student to the principal for disciplinary action. Okay. So these are the four. Any one of you who can unmute yourself and answer. This is the last one, so I'm asking directly.
Discuss it calmly.
Right. So discuss it calmly. That's the right answer. Now, of course, why Swami gives all these things is that, because empathy and kindness, which are the ahimsa aspect, himsa is always when something happens to you, the tendency to hit back with revenge is himsa. Ahimsa is even if something happens to you, you giving a thought to it and then responding in a different way. Somebody is paying you in one currency, you are trying to pay them in another currency. There can never be a conflict, I tell you. Because teach students to avoid harm to others in words, actions, and thoughts. It takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of character to stay put and not say something when the other person is insulting you, for example. Highlight the importance of respecting all life forms in the environment. Okay, all of this, probably somebody saying some things because they are very pained. Let me understand their pain rather than listen to the words that they are saying. It takes a lot of character and courage to do it. It takes a lot of practice of emotional intelligence to do it. But we have to do it. There's no other go. If we want a better society, if you want. Encourage empathy by having students reflect on the feelings of others. So this is something that has to be taught to people. Empathy. Empathy is thinking from the other person's point of view. I want to just say at the end of it, one thing, why Swami says non-violence is the highest virtue. By I'll just stop presenting there and then I'll just come back to the group. By giving an example from physics of how values can be, because somebody said, how can values be taught? I found this very interesting. This is just one example. I have many other examples. Don't have time to discuss about it right now. A physics teacher, for example, is trying to teach the law of refraction. And then instead of talking about the law of refraction, doing the diagrams and all that, that's all fine. But they take a glass of water, half filled, and they take a spoon, steel spoon, and they put the glass of water in front of the entire class, and then they dip the spoon into this. And then you clearly see that there is a bend. And then, so you ask the students now, is there a really is there a bend? Most students will say no, but some of them might still say yes, maybe. But you take it out of a spoon and see that it's a straight spoon. But again, put it and again it is bent. Then something must be a miracle. So then you ask what is happening. Okay, so then you first explain your principle of refraction. That is told. But then don't leave it there. How do you teach a value? Now say that, now you pick up two people for two students or any two students, A and B. And you say that, can we have two students who sometimes fought, but again you became friends? Some two students will put their hands up. And you say that suppose Ajay and Vijay. And say Ajay and Vijay, when both of you are friends, it is like this, you both are seeing this spoon in this air because it's one medium. Your thoughts are aligned and you're seeing it as straight. Because whatever Ajay says, his viewpoint, you are able to see. Whatever Vijay says, his viewpoint, you are able to see. But when you have a difference between both of you, you insert the thing, it is bent. So Ajay is seeing it in a way that Vijay feels that it is bent. And then Vijay is seeing it in a way that Ajay is seeing it is bent. Because of this change of medium. When light travels from rarer medium to denser medium, there's a bend. And therefore, their view, the refractive indices of the medium are different, media are different, which means that when my viewpoint is different, it's like refractive index. I'm thinking one way, you are thinking one way, and the same truth passes from your brain to my brain, it is getting bent, and I'm seeing it in a different way. So you should not come to the conclusion, therefore, that actually they are bad or something like that. That the truth is bent. It could be the way the perception is happening. Pretty much like the refraction. Now, what a great teaching this is about human interpersonal relationships and human behaviors in the class of refraction, physics. This is what I meant. Actually, teachers should not leave any situation left without trying to tell some life truth about it. Now, what is the advantage? The student is going to remember this. Whenever they're talking about refraction in future, they're going to also get this thing in their mind. And they most probably at a later point in time are going to understand this much more easily, rather than find difficulty in that. So this is one last example I wanted to share, and I wanted to end it up here. And really thank Swami for enabling these words and these thoughts through me. Thank all the organizers for giving me this opportunity to say. But since I don't know whether we have time, it's already past 9. If moderator can take the call if we want to have a Q&A session, or we can end it here, I completely leave it. But I offer back everything that has happened to Swami with a high level of gratitude. Jai Sai Ram.
Saira, Brother Suresh. Saira, Brother Shiva. So happy, and we express our great indebtedness to you. You have touched all the core values, the basic points, and with lucid clear examples. Thank you so much. And we take this as a great prasadam from our beloved Bhagavan to each and every teacher. And tomorrow we will be sharing the video of this talk so that, normally more than 1,000 teachers watch the video. And secondly, if you are, sharing the PPT, that also will be shared with all the teacher groups. And we take this opportunity to thank all teacher participants. Thank you for your time. And we pray to our beloved Bhagavan to bless you all. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram. Sai Teja.
Shanti समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोका सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्तिः। जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।
Jai.
Thank you.
Sai Ram, Sai Ram, Sai Ram.
Sai Ram to all of you. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram, sir.